welcome back. My name is Shanay Braxton, and this is the Business and Travel Club, where I help travel brands optimize their digital footprint. Today is another episode in the Black Girl Teaching Moroccan Arabic series. And this time, I've partnered up with Ghizlane Aittah from Agadir Morocco. Ghizlane is a Moroccan Darija teacher on YouTube, and she works at the American Language Center in Agadir. Her and I teamed up to share 14 keywords in travel in Moroccan Arabic. The words that I'm sharing with you today are completely different from the past lesson that I did on transportation. If you haven't seen that video, remember to check it out after this one, because the more words you know, the more sentences you can build and the more comfortable you become actually speaking the language. So I highly recommend checking out that video because it'll be a compound of words that you know in travel in Moroccan Arabic. Okay, let's get into this list of words, starting with airplane. Airplane in Moroccan Arabic is Tayara. Tayara. Airport, Matar. Matar. Backpack. Sakadou. Sakadou. Bags. Sikan. Scan. Baggage. Bagaj. Bagaj. Bathing suit. Hewayj. Laumen. Hewayj. Laumen. City, Medina. Medina. Street, Trek. Street, Trek. State, Wiliya. Wiliya. If you are coming from the States and you want to say which state you are from, you can say Wiliya, Ohio. Wiliya, Ohio. That's how you say which state you're from. If you want to say the city that you're from, you could say Ana min Medina, Cleveland. Ana min Medina, Cleveland. Customs, Diwana. Diwana. Driver, Chifor. Chifor. Having a driver is often common for travelers to Morocco because you may be going from one city to another and it may be a couple of hours where there isn't a public taxi, or you just want a private ride, or you've secured a private tour, then you will have a chauffeur that drives you around to your destinations. It all depends on how you prefer to travel around Morocco, but a lot of times travelers do have a driver. Station, Mahta. Mahta. Toll, Péage. Toll, Péage. Gas, Stasyon. Gas, Stasyon. As I'm teaching these words, I'm wondering, have you noticed that some of these words are actually French? And that's because Moroccan Arabic is a mélange, a mixture of French words, Arabic. There is influence from the French culture that is embedded in the language Darija. So you'll find that there may not be a term in Darija for certain words, and it's interchanged with a word in French. Like toll. Péage is a French word. If you use a French word, they will understand it just the same because Moroccans speak French as their second language. That's a language that they learn in school as well as Arabic. So that's something to keep in mind, that sometimes Darija and French can be interchangeable when speaking to a Moroccan because they understand French as well, and some of the words that they use on a day-to-day basis are French words. Practice makes perfect. In order for you to become more comfortable speaking Moroccan Arabic, you have to actually speak and say the words. You become more comfortable using the words, which means that your mouth and your tongue begin to work together to pronounce these words, because depending on what your first language is, if the alphabet is similar, then you may be comfortable using certain parts of your tongue when you're speaking the language. As a native English speaker, it was really hard for me to pronounce some of the words because of how letters sound in Darija versus how letters sound in American English. And so it's a little bit tricky sometimes when it comes to pronunciation, for me especially. This is something that I struggle with, but I still practice and I still make an effort to speak the language. Even when people say they don't understand me, I just say it again and hope that they understand me the second time. And so it's really about practice with any language that you want to speak. You have to practice speaking it. And one of the experiences that I had when I was living in Morocco was that a lot of natives wanted to speak to me in English. And sometimes people get caught in that, where you speak speak the dominant language and people want to speak with you in that dominant language. And for me, I came to Morocco and I wanted to learn Arabic. I was intentional about learning the language. And so in order to balance Moroccans that wanted to speak to me in English, I always just said, if you speak to me in English, I can speak to you in Arabic and we can communicate like that. And it always seemed to work because people would speak to me in English and then I would respond to them in Arabic. Because that way we both get to practice speaking the language that we want to learn. So I recommend that you do the same as well for any language that you want to learn and speak. Speak with the local. Also, if they want to learn your language, allow for there to be an exchange there as well. And I know that can be hard because for me, I learned Spanish all throughout university. And I have a really close friend who is a Spanish speaker. And I mean, she's from Puerto Rico, so her native tongue is Spanish. And for us, English is our dominant language that we speak in. And it's funny because days where I want to practice my Spanish, if there's a word that I don't know, we automatically switch back to English. And so I know that sometimes is a challenge when you're not forced to speak that second language. And for me, that was an advantage of living with Moroccan host families because my Moroccan host families didn't speak English. So I didn't have the luxury of reverting to that as the language of comfort when it came to communication. So I had to learn the language. And I know it can be hard when you're not put in that environment. So I just recommend that when you visit places where you know the language, utilize your language skills then. If you speak Spanish and you go to a Spanish speaking country, speak Spanish while you're there. So that way, at least you're in the environment where they're speaking it daily, they understand, and you can practice. When you go to Morocco and you've seen these videos and you've learned Arabic, I highly recommend not only practicing Moroccan Arabic, but also if you speak French while you're in Morocco. You can practice many languages in Morocco. Even, well, if you're a native English speaker, you would be speaking English and they can practice their English with you. But when you visit countries where your native language is not the dominant language and you know that language, I highly recommend you practicing and speaking the language because it brings you closer to the culture, closer to day-to-day life, and closer to the people that are there. Because when you speak to someone in their language, you're speaking to their heart. When you speak to someone in the national language, you're speaking to their brain. That's something to keep in mind. I hope that you enjoyed another lesson of Black Girl Teaching Moroccan Arabic, and stay tuned for another episode in this series. In the meantime, I want you to head over to Ghizlane's channel for more lessons on Moroccan Arabic. Her Darija lessons are all about Moroccan culture, traditions, and food. If you like this type of content, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps my channel to grow. Until next time, bye!